It's Thursday, and you know what? Well, it's not actually Thursday. It's actually Wednesday. I'm recording this at like 10 o'clock at night on Wednesday. So in like an hour after I finish this show, it'll be Thursday, which is Linux Day over on the Lunduke Hour, which means I get to hang out with the one, the only, the Hartley. Say hello, Matt, to the whole world.
Howdy ho, everybody.
Nicely done. That was the best
howdy
Mr.
ho.
Hanky I've heard in a long time.
I worked really hard on that one.
That was pretty good. All right. We have, I guess, we're streaming this live. For those of you who catch this show in the recorded version, we're live streaming these episodes now. We don't have a good schedule for it now. We kind of bounce all over the place. So you just have to be subscribed to the YouTube channel or follow me on Twitter or Mastodon to know when we're live. But we just kind of appear. And the people in the chat room are pointing it out that it's Thursday somewhere. So
Right.
This
Yeah,
totally
it's got to be
works.
overseas, I would assume, by now. Sure. Right.
You know what? It's Thursday over on the east coast of North America.
There it is.
Near the Statue of freaking Liberty.
That's right.
So, this is kind of an exciting week. There's a lot going on this week. A whole lot going on this week. And I wanted to give everyone a quick update on everything that is going on this week. First and foremost, today, over the course of today, was the big Fight for Net Neutrality Day. So that was kind of interesting. We got some questions, and we'll get into that. But I want to tell everyone flat out, that doesn't have a whole lot to do with Linux specifically. So unless the questions pertain to it, I'm not going to jump into it right now. The same with the W3C stuff. I think we're going to jump into it, but I'm not going to call it out specifically. I wanted to put that out there since it is kind of the big stuff happening this week. I don't want to make people think we're ignoring it, but we'll let the questions dictate where we go, because this is a show that's really driven by all of you. You guys tell us what the topics are and then force me and Matt at gunpoint to talk about them for an hour. And I kind of like that because it takes the pressure off.
Right? Right. Awesome.
Right? Okay. All right, here we go. First off, Fedora 26 was released, dude. You see that?
Oh,
New Fedora came out. I'm guessing that means that you have not tried it out yet.
I'm so behind on so many things. It's bad. I've been a bad man.
You are kind of a bad guy. I feel bad because I haven't tried it out yet either. People are asking for a review or something of it. Here's my general statement. I think that the Fedora team probably did a great job. They're probably should be very proud of themselves. It's probably not entirely broken. And just like past Fedora releases, it probably loads JPEGs very, very fast using the always up-to-date Turbo JPEG. LibJPEG Turbo? Can't remember what order the JPEG and the Turbo goes in. Yeah, sure. I'm not sure. Anyway.
Cool.
That's all I've got to say on the matter. I'm sure they did an awesome job. Fedora releases have gotten a lot better in the last few releases since the days when I used to mock it endlessly and mercilessly. They really have done a great job. So I'm sure it's awesome. I don't know if I'll get around to installing this one or not. I just don't know if I will, but I'm sure it's pretty kick-ass. If you do like Fedora, go check it out and upgrade. Sure. All right. Okay. Let's go down the list of questions. Let's go to Twitter first. Right. Cubicle Nate asks, I keep hearing desktop, laptop, and tablet sales are down. Is it a waning or a saturation of the markets? That's kind of a more general computer question. So Matt's going to know this for sure and have a completely perfect answer ready.
Well, I mean, first of all, the lizard people are responsible. Once you kind of accept that, and then no, just kidding. You know, I think we go through bubbles and trends as things go. I think tablets are kind of done.
What?
Yeah, I literally, I think my tablet is actually keeping my desk like off lopsided right now because it's just pointless. What am I going to do with it? Beat people with it? And I think a lot of things. I think I'm about ready to do the same with my phone because I'm tired of it ringing all the time.
Phones are stupid.
That brings me back to my computer, which is awesome. Laptops and desktops are cool. Yeah. But I think you kind of get one tweaked out the way you want it, and you're probably settled unless you want to go big, save up, and then get a really big one. That's awesome.
You know, I think you're totally right. You know what I miss? I miss PDAs.
Yeah.
You know?
God, right?
I truly do.
when it dialed home, like you put it in the cradle, right? And you know.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right?
I miss
Sync your
PDAs.
contacts.
So I've got like my little my pocket chip here, right? Which I totally modded out, and I've got wires all over the place in it. But I treat it like a PDA. You know, it doesn't have a cell phone in it. No one can call me on it. I literally I load it up with my music. I load it up with my podcasts. I have an address book on here. I keep notes on there. I treat it not all that much differently than I treated like a Palm Pilot in the 90s.
Right.
Exactly. And I realized I got a lot of use out of those. And I got a lot of use out of this for that purpose, and some casual gaming on the go. Yeah. And I suppose people use their phones for a lot of that stuff, but I've kind of gotten to the point where I don't want one anymore. Like, I've got a phone. I've only had a phone for a few months, but I kind of don't want it anymore. And I'm kind of the same way with tablets. You know, you're right. Like, I'm looking around. I own a few tablets. Like, I don't have any of them nearby.
Well, yeah, because you've got a device that it's doing everything you want the way you want it. You're in full control. It respects your freedom, and you know you're in the driver's seat. It's not some Android run thing, you know, or some iOS run thing.
Yeah, it's nice. It's really nice, and like, you know what I kind of like. Do you remember the Sharp Zaris PDAs?
Oh, yes.
The Linux powered ones. Yeah. Those were amazing, and I kind of treat like this. I kind of treat like that. This cost me $60. And that's it. I got a full Debian on there. I can run whatever I want on here. Command line tools, some GUI tools. Is it the most feature-filled system or desktop replacement? No. It's not even as powerful as most tablets you're going to buy. But there's something about just having a little thing in your pocket that you can just do whatever with. You know what I liked? I guess this is a tangent, but Samsung, like, was it 3 years back? Something like that. They came out with what they called the Samsung Galaxy Player, which was, which was like it was shaped like a phone, but with no phone. So it was like their version of the iPod Touch from Apple, except it was running Android. And that was kind of cool because it was a fit in your pocket thing. You're not going to get phone calls on it. You're not going to be irradiating your junk with cell phone signals all day long. You just yeah. you know what I mean? You just get something that you can go home, sync it up, probably over Wi-Fi or something like that, with all your music and your podcast, and then you can go out. And yeah, you can connect to some Wi-Fi and check some things on the go. But it's just like just there when you need it, and basically turned off and not when you don't. I kind of miss having just PDAs around. Tablets and phones for me are just I'm done.
Yeah,
I'm done with those,
you're right.
Especially tablets.
I think my nephew's got the right idea, because I think he took a page from basically he puts it in airplane mode, and he uses the stylus, and basically if he wants to get a hold of people he will, but otherwise you can't get a hold of him. I mean, good freaking luck. He basically uses it like it's a PDA.
I like that.
Essentially,
I like that. That's pretty nice. Hey,
why not?
Hey, Matt.
What?
Before we go any further, let's mention very briefly the super awesome sponsors of this show, such as Pogo Linux. Look at this, guys. New Atlas servers featuring epic AMD processors. And here's the cool part about those epic processors. They're spelled EPYC. That's how you know they're really epic. They got the Y instead of the I. But here's what's really crazy about these. 4 terabytes of RAM. 4 terabytes of RAM. 4 terabytes of RAM. Holy friggin' guacamoles. What I really like is this 2U12 Bay beast, the Atlas 223-12. So dual AMD 7000 epics, 4 terabytes of RAM, and 12 hot swappable drive bays. It's just a mammoth beast. And of course, because it's Pogo, you can put pretty much any Linux there you want on there. You can put CentOS, Ubuntu, Debian, OpenSUSE, all the friggin' good stuff. That's over at PogoLinux.com, one of the most adorable sponsors of this show. Just one of 2. Anyway, all right, let's get back to questions. Back to questions. All right. Yesterday, I don't know if you saw this, but I don't know a whole lot about VR stuff, which I know is a weird statement to make. It makes me sound old and weird, like I don't know what a computer is. But I don't do VR stuff much because I get motion sickness in it, and so I've just kind of ignored it and have written it off as dead. So I had someone come on the show to like walk me through why VR is cool and who's winning the VR battles and what kind of
catch
systems you get off. Yeah, it was like a Lunduke primer on VR, so I don't sound unhip. Anyway, I'm not super into VR still, but he did mention one video game that where you literally, it's called a Star Trek Bridge Crew, where you put on a VR headset and you're on a bridge of a Federation starship with 3 of your other friends, and everyone has a different, like one's a tactical officer, one's, you know, the captain and whatnot, and you're all just you're talking to each other and looking around the bridge and doing commands. That sounds kind of amazing. Like
kind of both. Although, but then I'm afraid that I flash back to when I used to play the Star Trek role-playing game, which was basically D&D with Star Trek, and I basically used to just ram my ships into everybody. You know, and I was, of course, I was really not playing. I was really, I'm afraid I'd probably do that. I'd walk around and just act like a complete ass.
Probably,
but
isn't
that could also
that
be
amazing all by itself?
Right? It would be fun. It would be fun.
Jay Little asks me over on Twitter, will Star Trek Bridge Crew VR Edition, would that be enough to tempt me to install Windows again? Because it's only available for Windows. Let me ask you this. If you let's abstract this a bit, okay? This is more of a, let's see what it takes to tempt Brian or Matt to Windows.
All right.
Okay, let's go with VR for a moment, right? Let's say I hand you a VR headset. What is your favorite sci-fi universe? What's the one that you could go into in a virtual reality world that would be the most exciting to you? Would it be Babylon 5? Would it be Buck Rogers? What would it be?
Oh, that's you just kind of tempted me with Buck Rogers. I think I'm probably going to slide back to Babylon 5. I'd probably go into season whatever the hell it is, where Star Fury fighting the Shadow. Shadow guys. Okay. Yeah, I'd probably that'd be cool. Star Fury action. That would be awesome.
So Babylon 5 Star Fury Action VR edition becomes available for Windows.
That would
hand you a computer that can run it and a VR headset.
Can I hide it in a Faraday cage where no one can?
Oh, okay. In fact, on the front of the case is a gigantic glowing Windows logo. So everyone that comes into the room knows you're running Windows in order to enjoy that Babylon 5 VR experience. Do you do it?
I might. If it's on a dedicated box that I don't have to use for anything else. Sure, I would treat it like a console. And then basically what I would do is then I would go to the back room and then like basically punish myself, you know, kind of pay.
Get self-flagellating, start whipping your back like
I get the little multi-pronged whip, you know, and it'd be okay because I'm punishing myself. So that makes it okay, right? Yeah. So the voices tell me.
I had the same thought. I immediately started because the Star Trek Bridge Crew. Honestly, the game, from what I've heard, is not that great of a game. In fact, Jay Little says, spoiler, it's quite terribad. But it sounds so appealing to me. It's like they're playing to my weakness. You know what I mean? Like my games are already my weakness. Putting me in a virtual starship in the Star Trek universe. Oh, I don't know that I can avoid that. Now,
that would be tough.
Now, that said, in my mind, I start to justify, I'll treat it like a console. I won't do anything else on it. I'll lock that system down and I won't touch it for anything but that game. It's a one-off console.
Right. But it's in a gateway drug. That's the thing. It's like, because that's my concern.
Once you have it, what if you got Steam loaded already to get that game on there? What if more cool VR Windows games come out? Then are you playing your games all on your Windows box and ignoring the Linux ecosystem?
Although Windows might take care of this for us, because especially if it's home edition and it's like, okay, you're in the middle of the game. Oh, look, it's time to reboot. Oh, it's rebooting because it has to install some updates. So maybe it'll help wean me back off of Windows again. Maybe it takes care of that for me.
It might.
It could work. It could.
I don't really know.
Because it does do that. Seriously, point blank. If it's for home edition, oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I
so that would help kind of.
So to answer your question, Jay, I think the right sci-fi universe, being in VR and looking super sweet might get Matt Hartley and I to use Windows. And you know what? We would feel terrible about it, and we would beat ourselves with a whip afterwards just to feel better about it.
I would. I would also do it for Laugh Olympics. If you could do a VR Laugh Olympics, Hanna-Barbera, that
with Muttley and everyone.
I want to be Muttley. That's all. That's all I want. Maybe
people have compared you to Muttley, which is funny.
I feel like Muttley. I'm pretty Muttley.
Could I be Snidely?
Yes, yeah. I can't do the Muttley laugh though.
Could I be Snidely? I don't think I can do any of the voices, but I could do Snidely. Hamza asks, in BSD Now episode 201, and I got to be fair, I don't know what that is. They half jokingly said Linux users care about what OS other users use, while Mac OS users care about what they use. Rebuttal. Okay, sorry, I don't know what that is. I assume that's a show. I don't know anything else about it.
Yeah.
But Linux users care about what others use, while Mac users care about what Mac users use. That doesn't sound right to me. I don't know what this BSD Now show is, but it sounds like garbage. Matt?
Kind of the backstory on
I don't
know
who I just insulted. I feel bad about
that. I don't even care who that. I have no idea who that is. But OS 10 has it is Unix under the hood and all that. So it's got BSD, Darwin and all that. All that aside, honestly, I've met different folks from different strokes and all sorts of different stuff and all that fields. I think it depends on the user themselves. I've met Mac people that absolutely the first thing out of their mouth is, "Hi, my name's so and so. Do you use a Mac?" And they just kind of do one of those on you. I've also met Mac users who don't care. And same thing with Linux people.
Most people don't care.
Unless you're an Arch user, and Arch users definitely. No, I'm thinking more of the Gen 2 guys probably. Yeah, Gen 2 people, they get pretty proud about their portage, but yeah, Arch people too, to a certain degree. I think it just depends on the person, but then there's Arch people that don't care. I think it's a generalized statement, and I think generalized statements suck.
It's. I think most. If there are subsets of the Linux world where the people care about what they run, they're kind of like the vegans of the world, right? They like to tell people that they're vegan, or
exactly.
and I don't mean to disparage any vegan out there, and this does not apply to every vegan. Also, in the religious scene, people who are atheists like to tell people that they're atheists. People who are vegan like to tell people that they're vegan. Arch users like to talk about Arch more than any of them. Like they like to make sure you
Prius
know
drivers.
It's Arch.
There you go. Prius drivers, man. Oh my God.
Yes, people who drive Priuses, and it's not that they're bad, nor that they're wrong. I mean, maybe the right way to live is to run Arch, drive a PS, be a vegan, and be an atheist. Maybe that's the right way to go. Maybe that's the perfect culmination of a human being. I don't know, but they like to tell you about it. As a general rule, it seems like that was the case. I don't know. Then again, I'm a Linux user, and I literally make my living going around telling people I use Linux. That's my job. So I don't. I don't know. Take that for what it is. Ben Cav asks, with the changes to the internet, which we'll just gloss over momentarily, do you think the BBS could make a comeback?
Honestly. Not in the old school format. I think honestly we're going to see a lot more interest in mesh networks. I personally think now is the time for people to embrace home networking, as far as their own servers at home, media, music, videos, files, all that. I think the LAN's going to be making a big comeback, and I think we might see some mesh in that space as well.
There's questions around that. We've actually got some questions around that. So I'm going to skip that. Do I think the BBS specifically is going to make a comeback? I think it already is, in a very, very niche, goof-offy way.
Yeah.
Right now, my BBS, 100, 200, 300 people call it a day. Is that a huge number? No. Is it a big number for BBSs from the old days? Yeah, actually, that's a really popular thing. So the games are hopping and whatnot. Does that replace everything else? No. In fact, the only thing people do on it is just go play games from the past. If I had files that they could download there. Would people use that instead of going to a web page and downloading it that way? Probably not. I just don't think it would to replace it. But part of me kind of hopes it would. But it
that'd
wouldn't.
be cool.
Yeah. All right. Deep question for you, Matt. This kind of dovetails on the VR question.
Okay.
Henrique Diogo Silva, man. I'm so sorry, man. Like so many names that I butcher, I bet yours is beautiful when spoken by someone with a brain. Linux Thursday. All right. In what ways, if any, do you trade your privacy for commodity? Matt?
Oh.
Do you trade your privacy for a little convenience, a little
commodity? Say for convenience, as far as the commodity, and I never really thought of it that way, but I think as far as convenience, oh hell yes, God, yeah. I'll line up to do it. I'm terrible at that, but I think the difference is that I openly embrace it. I'm first to yell out and scream, "I've sold out, everybody!" I pretty much embrace that element of myself. So yeah, I do. Like me using Linux, it isn't an idealistic reason. I'm literally lazy. It just has everything I want and it updates nicely and stays out of my face. That's honestly why I've been using it all these years. I think the licensing just happens to be frosting on the cake.
Yeah.
For me. So where other people might see it, the licensing is the cake and the other stuff is the frosting. But for me, it's definitely just kind of a bonus added thing.
For me, most of the areas that I trade my privacy for something is in my work. So like, I'm doing this show. You guys are literally looking at my nose right now. Right now, my nose has no privacy. If there was like gigantic boogers dangling out of it right now, you'd see them. Here's both sides, just in case you just want to make sure. I'm not going to tilt my head back because I'm sure there's something way up there if you really look closely. But then it's archived for as long as the internet's rocking.
That's a good point, especially when people pull out old videos. Like I've had a few pop up from some really weird, nothing like nefariously bad, but just embarrassingly stupid mostly. One involved a Muppet from a long time ago. There's stuff like that. Just a lot of weird. Yeah, exactly. Just really weird, obscure stuff. Another one was back in my PC repair days, I did this kind of a monologue, just musical. It was weird. A lot of time I was in between marriages at the time, and clearly I needed a hug.
yeah. No, I know how it goes, man. I have lost count. I couldn't even begin to tell you how many hours of video there is of me on the internet. I mean,
right. Seriously, you got to think.
I have no idea.
We don't really have any privacy. Yeah.
I've kind of traded it all, and then because of what I do. I'm active on social media, mostly I've focused it in so that the social media that I'm active on respects the privacy of me insofar as if I post something, it's public, but otherwise, hopefully it tracks me less than most. You know what I mean? Like I've avoided Facebook and Twitter's not perfect, but it doesn't track you quite as nefariously as Facebook does. So I try and focus on that sort of thing. I have, however, gotten rid of most of the tracking things in my life that aren't part of my public persona. So I've gotten rid of most googly stuff other than like YouTube. Like this goes up on YouTube, so I have to have a Google account, and I am logging into YouTube, so therefore Google is tracking me and invading my privacy a little bit, but I'm knowingly entering into that agreement and using it sparingly and just when I'm doing my show.
Exactly.
So yeah, I do. And I don't expect that someone like me or Matt could ever be completely private because of the work that we do. It just isn't possible.
Well, there's weird elements to it, and I'm sure Brian has probably experienced this. I've received email for Canadian Matt Hartley, which oddly enough has the evil Spock goatee, which is weird. And we've exchanged correspondence. There's another religious guy that also apparently has my name that I get his email. Nice. And you get a lot of times, you get a lot of negative stuff from other folks that are targeted to other people that are in your name, and you get a lot of weird stuff out there. It's kind of bizarre. But I think that the secret is what Brian was talking about, by using YouTube. I think if you kind of dedicate it to one machine that just is that's its purpose. And then everything else
Yeah.
that's private is done on other stuff. You can kind of control some of that. Be mindful of what you share.
Yes.
That's huge.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's really, that really is the long and short of it. But I mean, it's, so for me, I've never had the name mistake thing because I'm the only person on the planet with my name. And
Lucky
so
you.
it's my name. So it's the only person that has, I'm the first Lunduke. And so because of that, it makes it a little bit easier for me. However, because I've been doing for 10 plus years so many videos every week nonstop, I mean, with a few breaks in there, there's just thousands and thousands and thousands of hours. Every week or two, a little bit of personal stuff gets slipped out, right? Even if I'm just talking about Linux or whatnot. So, people know a little bit about me out there if they really study me. I get on average 1 to 2 death threats per week.
Oh, wow. So it's come down, wasn't it? For a while?
It's all religious.
Wow. Oh, yeah.
All of it. Every single one of them. No one's ever said, I'm going to kill you because of your glasses. No one's ever said, you use Linux? I'm a Windows user. You're going to die. Like, no one has ever said anything like that. But it's all religious stuff. And I've
never gotten
It's very peculiar to me. And it's happened. It really started about 4 years ago.
Yeah.
And it ramped up over the first like 2 years it was happening, and it's kind of plateaued since then. It stayed pretty steady, and it's kept going, and it's really interesting and really fascinating, and no one's ever done anything.
But I mean,
it was at first.
Well,
no one's ever tried anything. No one's ever done anything. I found several message boards online dedicated to, and I don't even want to give specifics, but dedicated to particular religions and the more fringy elements within it. And I found threads in languages that I do not speak that I've had to use Google Translate to figure out what they say. And they're just like, this guy is a effing, and they just go off. And they literally orchestrate, let's email this guy. Here's his email. And they almost have like template. It's really amazing how bureaucratic it gets. They have like template hate email. Send this guy these emails and use these template like paragraphs that we'll have for you. And I'll get like multiple emails over the course of a few weeks that are all essentially the same with a few tweaks. And I applaud their organization skills. I'll just say that.
Clearly they're organized, but that's geez.
And they watch all my videos, and then they'll go and they'll talk about them. And because I mention it, even though I don't mention them at all, I'll get a few extra ones next week. It's just inevitable. I've mentioned this once or twice before over the last few years, and every time I mention it, I get a little bit of a spike, not a lot, just a little bit the next week, and then it goes down again. I mean,
I've been the subject of Matt is a moron articles. I used to catalog them, especially when Matt did one. I mean, that was awesome, but because he was really creative, and I totally props on his writing back in the day. But I never got anything quite like that. I mean, I know people that have one of my Perillo actually used to get a few back in the day. I remember that. And I actually worked with him a couple times trying to figure out whether or not we should be concerned, because I was looped in one of those, but that was a long time ago. That was really about it, though. I mean,
I reported a lot of them early on, but a lot of them seem to come from like the same couple of groups, and after a while,
reporting, I mean,
after a while, it just kind of. I mean, it's sad when you're at a state where you're like, you're getting like hate mail, like I'm gonna kill you hate mail, and you're like, it's those guys again.
Well, that's like, it's bad if you got like an actual email filter that it just kind of knows.
I have an email filter. Yeah.
You kind of have to. After a while, that would really.
It's really stupid. Anyway,
stupid. Yeah,
so
dumb.
The privacy thing, it's. You try and have a certain level of privacy. You'll notice I don't put my kids on the stream very often. Exactly. I don't show my kids in the video much. And that's because, they're kids and they should be able to make that decision for themselves.
I completely agree.
But me, I mean, honestly, how much privacy do I have? Almost none, really. I mean, I have little aspects of my life are private, but mostly not really. I just burped a little bit. I just burped right now a little bit. You heard it and saw it.
I felt it.
And then I verified that it was indeed a burp, not like some sort of a stutter. It was in fact a burp. And it was a burp because, and I'll just tell you straight up, it was a burp because I was drinking Pepsi. I drank some Pepsi and then I burped. That's what just happened. And now that is known on the internet forever. Anyway.
Pepsi. It's been archived. It is so.
Undead Erlicht asks, why can I have self-made cloud storage but not self-made cloud computing? It's 2017, damn it. Well, that question confuses me a little bit.
I think I know what they're getting at, and the self-made stuff depends on what. Well, it depends on what they mean by self-made. There's actually, like services out there that actually allow you to almost rent computer space, if you will, virtually, that you can run your browser, and you can actually run a Windows instance.
Any virtual private server will do that for you. Like I've got.
Well, no, I mean like an actual desktop.
VPSs.
Like I want to render something ridiculously
you can
huge.
Get that right now.
You can rent that. You can rent that. As far as building your own, I mean, not really sure how that works, but yeah.
It simply, there is no such thing as the cloud. It's just someone else's computer.
Right.
Ergo, if you want a cloud computing device,
go to your neighbor.
Just get your own computer.
And then take it to your neighbor's house
device is.
And get some cotton, make a cloud around it, right? Because that's a very important step. And once you've done that, and it's not at your physical location, and you're connecting to it, that has cotton, it's cloud computing.
That's cloud computing right there. Let's move over to Mastodon. Actually, before we move over to Mastodon, dude. System 76 is still having their hashtag sale.
Woohoo!
All right, I'm going to show you guys these straight up. So the next episode of this show is me reviewing this guy, the Wild Dog Pro, and I love it so very, very much. It's $80 off right now. Their big machine, the Silverback workstation, is $150 off. Their little itty-bitty adorable Meerkat is $50 off. System76.com really do make some really killer rigs. I mean, that's what I'm streaming this machine on and streaming this whole show on, recording this show on is this Wild Dog here, and it's absolutely phenomenal. I have a full review in the next episode for that. But yeah, if you want good machines shipping with Linux right out of the box from really nice people, people that, by the way, know how to take a joke. If you goof around with them, they goof around with you. They're nerds with a sense of humor, living in Colorado, making cool computers, shipping with Linux, and you can't go wrong with that. And they sponsored this show. They're awesome. System76.com. All right.
You seen that picture of them where they're all like doing the chair thing, like they're sitting in each other's lap?
That was so I should almost bring that up. If you go over to Twitter and go over and follow System76 on Twitter, I think they posted that somewhere. It's fantastic. They've got I believe it's in order. They've got the CEO, the head guy Carl, sitting in a chair, and on his lap is the first employee, which is his guy named I believe his name is Ian, and then it's in order, sitting on his lap, and then his lap, and then her lap, and then his lap, then her lap. It's like all of them in hiring order, sitting on each other's laps. It's bizarre, yet adorable.
It's a little tricky.
Yeah, like I was.
It's like one of those trust exercises you do. With some,
yeah, exactly. Anyway, those guys are great. They're just awesome. They recently they did that because they did a photo shoot where they won an award for like companies to look at for in Colorado for the year. You know what I mean? It was one of those. Hey man, these companies taking off, and one of those profile deals. So anyway, kudos to System 76. Those guys rock. Mastodon questions. This is an interesting one. So San Medina asks, just found that Firefox uses Google Analytics on the About add-ons page, but I'm not sure if it really compromises the privacy settings of the browser. Mozilla claims that there had been an agreement with Google to anonymize the data collection. Should this be an acceptable, or should Mozilla take another solution or not even track their product usage in any way? Should I be worried? Tor browser, a version of Firefox, has the same issue. I just watched it myself. So they are using Google Analytics to track usage of the browser.
Well, so for the Tor browser, absolutely be concerned because that's wholly defeating the purpose, Batman. That's a definite, yeah. Now, as far as Firefox, I'm fine with it as long as it's just closed. I mean, because then whatever. But with Tor, no. That with the Tor Firefox version, whatever you want to call it, that's not cool. I get the flagship Firefox. Okay, sure, fine, as long as you just close it. But not doing that with the Tor is just no.
I think that it is profoundly unacceptable.
Mm-hmm.
I think that for Mozilla to be doing that at all in anything other than an I opt into it, like maybe a first run dialogue, it would be okay. Anything else is profoundly unacceptable. I think it flies in the face of what Mozilla is supposed to stand for. I think it
depends on the day. I think it depends on which, like I said, for their proper Firefox
Tor,
browser.
No, definitely not.
No, for Tor, we both agree that's absolutely just, they should be lit on fire for that.
That's insanity.
Yeah, that's just beyond stupid. But I think for regular Firefox, honestly, as long as it's clearly disclosed and folks understand, and that it is truly just not, it's just literally very generic statistics that don't have any real bearing on anything, I don't care. But yeah, if it's more than that, or it's not disclosed, or people aren't aware of it, that's concerning. That's concerning.
It's concerning that it just came out now, that people are just now noticing and making a deal about it. The fact that Mozilla wasn't talking about it is really, to me, is deeply is annoying as crap, is what it is.
Well, but it goes back to what I've been saying all this time: is that if you do anything on the internet, you're gonna get watched, son. I mean, it's like there's no. It's like I don't believe in Tor included. I think there was a time where Tor was, but let's look at how many 3-letter agencies are involved in that. So you know what I mean? It's like dead drops, my friend, dead drops.
I know.
Mad TV.
We need to go back to SneakerNet and SneakerNet only.
Right?
And you know what? SneakerNet on zip disks. That's the only format that should be acceptable.
That's right.
Zip disks with a click of death, walking it between people's houses. That's the only method for sharing files.
And when you're done, exactly, just magnetize those.
Man, I don't know.
I mean, I hate to be that guy, but it's just like I don't try. SneakerNet. I agree. I'm good at
that. Dovetailing onto this, Le Coq. I don't know how to say this Mastodon handle at all. What do you think is a bigger issue? All right, you ready for this, Matt?
Okay.
What's a bigger issue? I just burped again. See, again, the privacy.
No, I did just burp. Right out my nose.
Literally, that's my second audible burp in one show. Should I be drinking Pepsi this much before and during a show? Probably not. It's probably a bad idea. What's a bigger issue? Net neutrality or the W3C's embrace of DRM?
I think net neutrality is a bigger issue simply because that's pretty all-encompassing. I think you can still battle through the DRM stuff. I think there's always going to be room to battle that through. I think you can always instill it. It can come and go. I think net neutrality is definitely going to be an issue, just because that's I think that's a problem.
Let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
All right. Pretend like you have no idea what Lunduke thinks on this. Playing devil's advocate and not for anything else. What do you think is the biggest real practical impact on you for net neutrality? If there is no net neutrality, what do you think it's going to do to you?
I'm concerned about having fast lanes and slow lanes. That's one area I have a concern with. Okay. So not even as a media producer, but as someone that actually retrieves media, I would need to understand more and really have a bit more confidence in how that's going to pan out, because ideally the lawmakers may not have that intention, but I promise you the ISPs do.
What do you think a slow lane would be? So if you're in a slow lane, what do you think that impact would be? Would it be a certain percentage slower? Would you be throttled to such a certain speed? What do you think it would be?
I think it would be more along like a little more of the bottlenecking, to where it's a little bit like mobile data is probably a great example of this, honestly, to where you've got, I think, insert name of carrier here that has the unlimited, but as you get to a certain point, it just throttles down to like almost dial up. I mean, it's just garbage. And I can see that being a thing to where it's like, okay, so their data usage is this. I think we're going to, they're not one of our partner sites. I think we're going to have to go ahead and do that. And, is it usable? Sure. But if you run a rich media site and you depend on that for revenue, or you depend on that for maybe getting your message out or whatever it may be, I think it's concerning. That's certainly an issue I have with it personally. I think that, because I think that anytime you open up those doors of possibility, I think it's a concern.
I think this is a fascinating topic. Hold on. Yeah. Let's drill down on this further. You're in a slow lane. What do you think is a likely slow lane looking like? Let's say going to Lunduke.com nets you in a slow lane, because the ISPs are like, the hell with Lunduke. Right?
Yeah, right, exactly.
So you're connecting to Lunduke.com. What sort of speeds do you expect to get in the slow lane compared to the fast lane? Like, would you expect it to be a percentage, or what would you expect? I think
it's going to be packet shaping. I think and then packet shaping doesn't have definitive measurement. I'm like, it's, if you've ever been on Comcast, you know how that goes.
I do.
Yeah. So I picture more of that. I picture probably, I think the packet shaping experience is probably what's going to probably end up happening. We're going to see more of that, more of a, we really want to, we feel like we can squeeze out a few more accounts in that area if we just poke everybody down. But we got our partners over here, and we got to make sure that stuff's just awesome. Make sure that they paid their fees. So is it watchable? Am I buffering? Am I,
yes, like, this is where it comes down to. Does it become a usable system? Are you running, is it take twice as long to load? Does it take 3 times as long to load the page? Like, what does the real impact look like? And the reason I ask this is, did you watch the World Wide Web Sucks thing I did a couple weeks back?
No, not yet.
It's fine. It's fine. You don't have to. We're good.
I don't want to.
In there, one of the things that I track was web page size over time.
Yeah, right.
The size of a web page has grown 3-fold in the last 5 years, which means in order for having no net neutrality to have the same impact on page load times and site load times as what web developers are just doing naturally anyway, that means that the slow lane would have to be 1/3 the speed of the fast lane in order for it to be equally as bad as what web developers are opting to do anyway to ourselves. And that is steadily increasing. So, and that is just over the last 5 years. If you track it back further, it gets way, way worse. So what I'm really trying to look at is, what is the actual practical difference if we say no slowness on the internet? We will have fast lanes and only fast lanes. I want to be on a fast lane. I don't want to be in a slow lane. But if we say we're only going to be on fast lanes, is this the only thing we're going to fight about slowness? Or are we going to also fight the slowness that we are self-imposing on ourselves because we're stupid and we literally have already put ourselves into a slow lane?
I think if we go back and look at cars, which seems like a weird segue, but it relates.
I love a good car analogy. Rock it out, man.
So it's like, all right, oil crash in the 70s, everyone drove these Titanics they called cars. And, it took 4 people to parallel park one of these Lincolns or the Cadillacs or whatever. And these things were ridiculous. I had one. I had a 71 Cadillac.
I had an 85 Buick LeSabre. That man was a boat, and I could not parallel park that machine. It was amazing.
Prius in the trunk and like it. It's great. So it was awesome. And they were horrible on gas. They were just garbage. And then but then the availability and the prices of gas and all that, that became an issue for people. It really became a problem. And so cars started getting smaller and more efficient, much like web pages that could become smaller and more efficient. And that may actually happen. So if we end up with a issue to where fast lanes and slow lanes are an issue, I think we could in fact see people revisiting how they start building web pages. That could be a thing.
Bingo. This is what I keep thinking.
But
it
what
would
about video,
force
though?
web developers in the slow lane to make their web pages smaller so they load faster again. This could actually
but
it
wouldn't happen right away though. Yeah, they're gonna buck and kick for a while. But I mean, it may have. Boy, you know, it may have to happen that way.
I'm just saying. Like, here's the thing. Right now, my old Lunduke.com, before when it was WordPress with like 2 different databases and a bunch of plugins and way too much JavaScript, it was still a really small web page compared to most. Because most web pages are many megabytes in size for a single page. Most web pages, the average web page is over 3 megabytes in size. So multiple floppies to load a single page of text, which is asinine. However, my page took a little while to load by comparison. I now went over to basically a fully static page, no server-side scripting, no JavaScript on the client side, no database, and it loads instantaneously. My website's in the fast lane. And you know what? It's so small, it doesn't matter if there's net neutrality or not. If they allow any sort of data connection to Lunduke.com, that sucker's loading fast. I'm just saying... There's worse things than some data shaping. I don't like not having net neutrality. I, of course, want all neutral.
What about rich websites? So it's like, I mean, because I mean, I'm not talking about Flash. I'm talking about websites
like rich functionality, like lots of JavaScript ones. Oh, I think
they
should be burned
also
at the
just
stake.
the websites that have the video running in the background, which is annoying, but it is kind of cool to look at.
They should all die. They should all have to. No, I mean they should have to update. I mean they shouldn't have to update. They should get to update. Like honestly, if you were. And I have affiliations with many companies that have very, very rich and dynamic websites. Yeah. But I think this honestly, even though some of them are very beautiful and some of them are very interactive, I think if they went to much simpler sites that loaded psychotically fast, I think that would win over a lot of hearts and minds. And I think a lot of people would get excited about that. Personally. Now here's a separate thing.
All right.
W3C over here, the DRM, the EME, the encrypted media extensions, right? Yep. And over here, net neutrality. On the net neutrality side, many companies have come out in favor of net neutrality, even going so far as to making a big point today about how net neutrality is important and we need to make sure it's a law and etc. Those companies include Microsoft, Google, and Netflix. Microsoft and Google and Netflix not only are pro net neutrality, they are pro DRM being a standard across the web. So in one hand, they're saying there should be an even playing field in terms of data. The ISPs, which are not them, should not be allowed to control and shape data. And then on the other hand, they're saying the information that's on the web should not be open. It should be closed. And DRM,
so the common thread is control. That's clearly what they're after.
Yes, they want control.
Yep,
they don't want anyone else to have control. Now, that makes me pause a little bit. I would normally be the kind of guy that's, net neutrality. Yeah, of course. Net neutrality. All the way. Net neutrality. No questions, no ifs, ands, or buts. Do not pass go. Do not collect however much money or whatever currency that whatever edition of Monopoly you're playing is. Like Klingon Monopoly, don't collect that many drachmas or no, it's not drachmas, but whatever it is that Klingons use. I forgot the Klingon currency, which makes me feel really bad right now. But, it's...
Blood
but the
wine.
fact that the people that wrote the DRM specification for the W3C and basically pushed it through are the same people that are championing the let's fight for net neutrality makes me stop and makes me pause for a minute, because that's like, wait a minute, something's wrong here. Like, and they're fighting for it at the exact same time, not just the same people, literally the same week. Yeah, it's all happening. It makes you stop and make me go, okay, what am I missing here? Like what obvious thread is happening on the internet for the open and free and open source and open content and non-DRM protected internet is happening that I am missing here? Because they're the same.
Yeah,
it's the same companies.
It's a good point.
I don't know that it's a good point.
No,
It's just weird.
It makes sense. I mean, what you're saying makes sense. I feel like at the end of the day, it's really all about control. I feel like that in general, the people that want to control content the most aren't the people that created the content. I've noticed that. Look at the music industry. Budding artist makes music. Oh, hey, that's great. We'll take it and market it for you. Now we control you and that music. I see the same thing in TV and in movies, to where, you know, this really great content comes along. Oh yeah, we'll make that happen for you. But we're going to control. We're in control of the distribution. We're treating it like a product, and we want it, and we're going to, and then DRM it and all this other stuff.
Yeah.
To where you and I, if we create content, we're saying no, it's just there. And I think that, you know, this belief that in order to monetize a thing effectively, it has to be somehow protected, is been proven to be pretty much nonsense. And there's been, I mean, music is a great example of this. There's bands out there, you know, okay, they make most of their money at concerts and maybe not as much as they do from selling CDs as they once did. That's okay, because they're selling merch, they're getting their stuff out there. I mean, you know,
concerts have always been the way bands made their money. I mean, that was that way back in the old blues days. That was when Elvis toured. He made most of his money from movies and concerts, not necessarily from album sales, even though his album sales were phenomenal.
Mm-hmm. And of course, what's minuscule amount the artist actually sees of that, especially back in the day. I mean, you know, there's that fact as well. I've worked with people that in various industries in the media space, and it's pretty laughable. So it's funny. It's like when a radio show gets syndicated, for example, and how much control you give up as the host for that. It's interesting. So I think it's almost like a cabal. You know, I picture like Count Chocula, Mr. Burns, and insert, you know, Cobra Commander, and a bunch of other guys just sitting around a table, you know, coming up with all this stuff. I really feel like that.
Count Chocula, Mr. Burns, Cobra Commander.
Skeletor is probably also part
Google,
of this.
Netflix. Right. Which one is Count Chocula?
Yeah. Oh God, that's got to be. Oh man,
is that Count Netflix, Google, or Microsoft?
I'm going to say Microsoft.
Yeah, I was thinking Microsoft. Is Count
Microsoft.
Chocula.
Netflix could be Cobra Commander. I'm actually okay with that.
Ooh, I was going Mr. Burns. Nice.
Mr. Burns could be
we got
Google.
Some conflict here.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Chad Merkert asks, any chance for getting some more OpenSUSE developers on or board members on the Lunduke Hour again soon? Nah, those guys are boring. No, we'll have so there's going to be a release of OpenSUSE Leap coming up here very soon, 2 weeks out. I think it's about 2 weeks away. And I'll have the chairman of the board back on the show when we do that, because I'm on the board for OpenSUSE and I get to choose what I have on the show, and so I'll be able to have an old OpenSUSE show around that.
Right on.
Otherwise, you know, I don't want to overwhelm everyone with OpenSUSE stuff. Like you can see, where's my little geeko sitting back up there above me. You know, I don't want to overwhelm everyone.
You're overwhelming. It's like one lizard and then the rest of it's maker stuff. I mean, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
or one gecko. There, I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's
one gecko.
One chameleon really, named Geeko. Let's be clear.
Yeah,
his name's Geeko. He's not a gecko.
See,
not totally different. Yeah. Harsh Gandhi. Ooh, nice name. Harsh Gandhi.
That's actually pretty cool.
Not like Mad Gandhi, just a harsh Gandhi. Just like if Gandhi came up and Gandhi was like, "You're not looking so fresh." It's like, whoa, harsh Gandhi.
I'm picturing more of the UHF version, but okay, sure.
Yeah. Ooh. Yeah,
right?
The UHF version of Gandhi. Nice. How about single board computer based network attached storages? Just like, how about them? I love them. Take a Raspberry Pi, stick a USB drive on there, install you some Nextcloud, and Bob's your uncle. That's delightful.
That's right. Easy peasy.
I don't have much more to say about that unless you do. That's just a really, really economical way to go. In fact, the Nextcloud guys actually partnered up with, I think it was Western Digital, and they created an appliance that really was just this plastic case. It was this cute little plastic case that fit one drive inside of it, a Raspberry Pi, and it had all the little boards just ready to go. So you just plug it in, put the top on, and it had an SD card. So you were just like a plug and play Nextcloud, you know, your own little NAS in a box, basically, which I thought was a really cool idea.
That's kind of cool.
I never got one, but I thought that was a neat idea. All right. All right. All right. Brian Lunduke. What? This is from D-U-H, over on Mastodon. Okay. What is the feasibility of forking the W3C?
Oh God!
Orgs like Microsoft or like Mozilla, if they follow through with their current mission, may follow suit if it has the proper. So I don't know what's going to happen. So I of course earlier this week, most of you probably saw that, yelled for like an hour straight about the W3C and the DRM, and I felt much better after I did that. I had been trying for almost a week to get someone from the W3C on the show, or just to get them to provide me a quote via email so that I could use it in an article. I write articles over at networkworld.com and other places. Sure. And I just wanted to get their viewpoint, because my viewpoint is what they're doing is crazy. And I feel like that doesn't tell the whole story. I wanted them to address the concerns and tell people how they view it and why they think my concerns are stupid, or even if they call me dumb, I don't really care. Like, I wanted them to have their points. After I published the video where I yelled at them for an hour nonstop, the next morning I got an email from the W3C, from one of their press people, and it was a nicely worded email, and I'll paraphrase. I don't want to quote it exactly, but it was basically, maybe there's some misunderstanding here. Clearly, we want to do an interview, of course. Tomorrow we'll connect up and we'll talk about the scheduling an interview. And I'm like, dude, awesome. So I hopped on Twitter and was like, dudes, the W3C wants to schedule an interview. This is great. We'll get a chance to talk civilly and openly about this. Mm-hmm. And it was like one of my most well-received tweets, right? Like, people were like, yes, sweet. I want to see that. Right. I want to see what they have to say.
Everybody's on board. Sure.
We're on board with this. It'll be mostly friendly thing. I mean, you know me. I'm not going to bring them on and just swear at them for an hour. I'll save that for when they're not on the show. But, I would treat them nicely. And that was yesterday. I haven't heard anything from them. I followed up with them later this afternoon just to see what was going on. Nothing. I'm hoping that they're simply bogged down with all of the media coverage that they're getting, because it's been such negative media coverage, and they're trying to figure out what to do. I'm hoping they're just trying to figure it out. And honestly, if I were them, I don't know that I'd be able to come back to me with, let's do it on Thursday or Friday or something either, because they're still probably trying to figure out what their message is, because I don't think they were prepared for the backlash.
That's exactly it. Not too long ago, some time ago, I used to work for a company. When I was initially brought on with this company, my job literally was to undo all the crap that the previous PR agency did to them and really screwed things up for them. And so I was basically a spin doctor. And in their particular, I mean, that legitimately is what I did. And so these guys are in dire need of really, first and foremost, figuring out what the hell their message is, and they need to hurry the hell up and get in front of this, because they're not doing it. So I mean, my free advice to them, and I won't invoice them for this, is to pull their heads out of their little fannies and get ahead of this and get on this show and get on other shows and do something besides a press release.
Yeah, just they should just do literally they need to take Sir Tim Berners-Lee, who has a ton of clout and gravitas and is a articulate man and a smart guy. And honestly, I was thinking about this, really, if I were them, I would look at shows like mine and say, you know what? Okay, let's give him Tim for an hour, because if you put Tim, I start a stream, I'd live stream it, we'd get a big audience in here. Sir Tim Berners-Lee would show up. First thing he should do, hi Brian, nice to talk to you today. Big fan. That would immediately disarm me. I would be like, holy crap, Sir Tim Berners-Lee just complimented me. I would have a hard time saying anything mean for like the next half hour. Like, even if I disagreed with him, I'd be like, oh, that's a good point, Tim. Like, it would, if they really wanted to do it, and I'm not alone. I mean, nerds everywhere would be like in awe of Sir Tim coming on their show and being kind and cordial and affable with them. And might there be disagreements? Sure. I mean, eventually I'd be able to get over the starstruckiness and I'd be able to go, okay, wait. There's some real issues. And we could talk about that. But then they would be seen as proactive. They would be seen as nice. They would be seen as open and engaging. And then even if people disagree with them, all the articles and videos would have to talk about how open and engaged they are. And that would be a huge win.
Because ideally they come into this, they state their position, they feel confident in stating their position, which I'm beginning to wonder if they're actually confident in their position, but whatever. They state their position. And then at that point they say, now here, let's address the concerns. And then they address them. Oh, that's a great concern. Let's look into how we can find common ground, or basically it's about having that conversation. I would caution you that it's also a common technique that, that certain people will use to, blow sunshine off your backside. But I think if they're being honest about it, and I believe they can be, then great. You can usually tell. So, but
either way, if Sir Tim Berners-Lee hops on a call with you and publicly gives you a compliment,
seriously,
you're going to be like, your eyes are going to go full anime. They're going to be gigantic with little twinkly stars in them. Right? I mean, come on.
Yeah, I mean, totally. What's
amazed me, clearly. And send everyone else, every other higher up person on the W3, send them everywhere. Do interviews nonstop talking about why they think EME is a good idea.
Actually, I differ on that. I would have one guy, and I think Tim would be I would have one person represent. You do not want a bunch of engineer-minded types running around.
That's true, because they're gonna mouth off. Yeah,
that's why I was
right.
Again, that's why I was.
You're right. No. You're right. It should just be Tim. It should just be Tim.
Yeah, seriously, that would be smart.
I'm hoping the W3C does get back to me. Obviously today slipped without them getting back to me, which I'm disappointed in. And I think they know that if they kind of say they're going to, and then they renege on that, that's way worse for them, because
more than likely it's corporate molasses. Is basically they're trying to figure out what. Yeah, they're going to do it. They just need to get all their ducks because you got to remember the corporation. Right? So
it takes a while, and they're overwhelmed.
Takes a village.
So I've worked in media stuff for a while, and even in medium-sized organizations or small organizations, something like this happens and goes over this badly. I mean, basically, the W3C just took a giant nuclear poop on the face of every journalist, and no one likes this, right? I mean, I can't think of a single organization outside of the ones who wrote the spec that like this. So, I mean, when you've got everyone from Cory Doctorow to the EFF to the FSF and everyone else, even the Libra office is on board with not being happy with them. So when you've got Libra office unhappy with you, I can't remember Libra office ever taking a stand like this on anything else. They've got to get out ahead of it. Oh man, it just.
Well, and I think just one last parting thought on that. I think most likely, because this actually, again, the company I worked for, we actually were in a position where we had to delay a response for something because we needed to have something good to come back with besides, oh, well, and then repeating ourselves. I think they may be trying to grasp at straws, trying to find a way to present a middle ground publicly in a press release or something like that. That's probably what they're doing, is trying to figure out a way to kind of blanket, basically carpet bomb that. And then they come into the interviews because they've already kind of got that fodder out there. I think that's probably what's going to happen if they're smart. That's what I would hope.
All right, one more question along these lines, and then we're going to end on a purely Linuxy question.
Linuxy. Okay.
All right. This is from BX. I just burped again. That's burp number 3. Again, no privacy for my burps. My burps have zero privacy. B Extreme. I love Mastodon handles.
Right.
All right. Let me read through. He's got a bunch of text here. Here's the question. With the recent event of the W3C embracing DRM, could you see, and then net neutrality, all sorts of stuff, right? Could you see any sort of sustainable effort to create a sort of Internet 2.0? Linux programmers love to fork. Why not fork the Internet, right? And there's been projects around this, but he goes on, I understand why this is absurd, but it seems like the Internet is becoming less for the people. We need something that is ours again, unregulated, free, and open to all. What are your thoughts around this? I mean,
go. So the idea is great. Just like, money falls from the sky, servers are, just dropping out of clouds and into our laps. That's great. That's awesome. I think it's a holistic, awesome idea. I would love to see that. The reason why it hasn't happened yet isn't so much the technology, is that it is the unified vision, the access to the needed equipment, just all the logistical headaches that go with it, and the sustainability of such a thing. The reason why the internet works in its current form is because there's a metric ton of money being injected in all the right spots to make sure that backbones are up and that everything's doing what it needs to do, and ISPs are happily motivated and whatnot. It's the same reason why you look at a food co-op versus, say, like a Trader Joe's. And for you, those of you out of the U.S. or not in this part of the States, you have no idea what I'm talking about, but bear with me anyway. A food co-op is basically a food cooperative, basically, to where everybody takes up a little bit of ownership in this thing, and it's awesome, and it's great for like that town. That particular food co-op doesn't really expand out of that area. Yet Trader Joe's has become a big, huge thing because they've got a corporation, they've got money behind it to really make that. And honestly, it's really the same friggin' thing. That's the comical part. Same products are at both places. So I think that it comes down to money, hardware, and a shared interest. And if you can do those three things, great, but not yet. We're not there.
No, I kind of agree with that. Like, personally, I love the idea of a big wireless mesh network that we, the people, control. It's sort of like a more digitally version of a giant ham radio network. That really appeals to the doomsday prepper / hardcore underground sits in a basement nerd in me. That's a deep part of who I am, and I love that idea, the internet in a box sort of idea.
We've talked about various ways of doing it too.
Yeah, and there are some amazing ways, and in fact, there's even data channels that people use on ham radio networks for emergencies, and all sorts of different options that are out there. But you're right. The problem is, in order to make it big and make it so that it's really widespread and used by a lot of people, it requires a massive investment in hardware, in time, in ongoing maintenance and resources. It is a massive undertaking. It doesn't mean it's not worth it. It seems totally worth it, but it requires a pretty big bootstrap. Like, even if you wanted to start it in a regional area, like, let's say I live here in Portland, Oregon, right? Portland, Oregon would be a great place to start it because it's not a terribly huge and sprawling region,
exactly.
But it's fairly dense population-wise and highly nerdy. I mean, hell, we've got Intel headquarters just down the street. It's very nerdy. So I could find a lot of nerds here to bootstrap it. And even in an area that's as nerdy and as nerd counterculture underground dense as Portland, Oregon, it would still be a hard thing to set up and really effectively get consistent like Wi-Fi coverage across the whole of the greater Portland region. It would be a difficult thing to pull off. That's my thoughts around that. Matt has frozen in the most adorable face I could possibly imagine a Matt freezing in right now. Look at that Matt face. For those of you who are witnessing the Matt face, it's just adorable. Adorable, Matt. I'm letting Matt know that he's adorable. But anyway, that brings us, we'll just wrap up right there. We'll save the next question for next week, and we'll sign off at that point. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. That face is just adorable. Bye, Matt. That was absolutely awesome. I want to give you kisses right now. And I'll see everyone next week when we have more Linux Thursday. What am I saying next week? There'll be another episode tomorrow where I review the System 76 Wild Dog, and then next week we'll be back with all sorts of just delightful goodness. All right, everybody. I'll see you guys later.